Have you ever wondered how the earliest humans began to connect with something beyond the physical world? Imagine stepping back 2.4 million years ago, when our ancestors were struggling to survive in a harsh, unforgiving environment. At that time, the concept of religion as we know it today didn't exist. Yet, there were moments, fleeting but profound, when the human mind reached out for something more, something unseen, perhaps supernatural. But how did this spiritual awakening begin? This question might seem simple at first glance, but it opens the door to one of the most fascinating mysteries in human history. The origins of spirituality and religion are not neatly written in textbooks. They are hidden in the actions and symbols left behind by our early ancestors. These gestures, primitive yet powerful, would eventually shape the foundations of all religions known today. In those early days, the line between the physical and the spiritual was blurry. Nature, with its deadly predators and unpredictable weather, demanded more than just physical endurance. It demanded a belief in something beyond the immediate, a way to make sense of the chaos. The rituals, however rudimentary, were more than survival tactics. They were the first attempts to tap into a deeper understanding of the world. But how did these primitive people develop such rituals? What drove them to perform ceremonies that didn't offer immediate physical benefit? To answer these questions, we must look at their environment, their fears, and their hopes for something greater. The connection between the human mind and the unseen forces of the world around them can still be felt today. The ancient rituals, which might have appeared simple or even bizarre, were the birth of spiritual practices that would later evolve into the religions that define much of our world. These early humans were, in a sense, the first spiritual explorers, seeking answers in the unknown. Now think about your own experiences. How do you make sense of the world around you? What beliefs have shaped your life? Drop a comment below, sharing your thoughts or personal experiences with spirituality. Don't forget to hit the like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. You won't want to miss what's coming next. The secrets of these ancient rituals may surprise you, so stay tuned as we dive deeper into their origins. Imagine a time when there were no cities, no advanced tools, no written words. A time when survival was a constant challenge, and the mysteries of the world were far greater than the understanding of those who lived within it. Early humans were surrounded by an untamed environment, where every day was a battle for survival. But amidst the dangers of wild animals and the harshness of nature, there was something else. An innate curiosity, a search for meaning beyond the physical realm. The question is, how did these early humans begin to form ideas about the world around them? In a time before science or philosophy, how did they understand the forces of nature, the cycles of life and death, and the mysteries of the cosmos? The answer lies in their attempts to make sense of their surroundings and their experiences. Our earliest ancestors were not just trying to survive, they were trying to understand the world in ways that transcended their immediate circumstances. The sun that rose every morning wasn't just a source of light, it was a powerful force, perhaps a god in their minds, bringing both life and death. The animals they hunted weren't just creatures to be feared or admired. They might have been seen as spiritual beings with their own souls or powers. The sky, the stars, the wind, these natural elements were alive with meaning. In fact, it's believed that the first spiritual concepts began with the recognition of patterns in nature. Early humans began to notice the rhythms of life, the changing of the seasons, the migration of animals, the cycles of birth and death. These patterns, in a way, became the first clues to a deeper understanding of existence. The world around them was more than just a physical reality. It was charged with unseen forces that needed to be respected and understood. As these humans began to interact with their environment, they started to attribute these natural events to spiritual forces. The sun's power, the power of the animals, even the unpredictability of weather, everything seemed to have its own spirit. In this sense, they were not just observers of the world, they were participants in a complex spiritual drama that was constantly unfolding. Their view of the world was not as a lifeless, mechanical place, but as a realm filled with meaning, mystery, and forces beyond their control. It's no surprise, then, that the earliest spiritual practices began as rituals to honor these forces, whether they were gods, spirits, or natural elements. These rituals were an acknowledgement that humans were part of something much larger than themselves, something that could not be explained through the mere physical senses. So, think about this. How do we, in the modern world, relate to nature and the mysteries of life? Are we so different from those early humans? Share your thoughts and experiences with me in the comments below. And don't forget to give the video a like if you're enjoying the journey through time with me. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, so you can keep exploring the deep questions of human history. Stay with me as we continue uncovering the spiritual practices of our ancient ancestors. There's more to discover about how these beliefs evolved and influenced the civilizations that followed. As we delve deeper into the spiritual lives of our early ancestors, we begin to face a critical question. Why did early humans feel the need for rituals? After all, survival in those times was demanding enough. Hunting, gathering, shelter, and facing the constant threat of danger. Why then did they invest time and energy in practices that seemed disconnected from their immediate survival? To understand this, we need to step into the shoes of early humans and consider what life was like for them. Their world was one of uncertainty. The wild animals they encountered weren't just sources of food, they were dangers that could take their lives in an instant. The weather wasn't just a backdrop to their lives, it could bring floods, droughts, and other disasters that threatened their existence. In such a volatile environment, the human mind sought a way to make sense of the chaos. This is where rituals came in. Early rituals were not simply acts of devotion or religious practice as we understand them today. They were psychological and emotional tools that helped early humans cope with fear, anxiety, and uncertainty. By performing rituals, they created a sense of order and control in a world that seemed unpredictable and chaotic. Rituals gave them something to hold on to in times of stress, something that offered comfort and reassurance when they faced the unknown. But rituals were more than just coping mechanisms, they were also ways to bond. Early human groups lived in tight-knit communities where survival depended on cooperation. Rituals helped strengthen these social bonds, creating a shared sense of purpose and identity. Through rituals, individuals in these groups could express solidarity, trust, and unity. It was through these shared experiences that a deeper sense of connection developed within the group, further reinforcing the importance of ritual in their lives. And then, there were the symbols. Early humans didn't just perform rituals, they created symbols to represent the forces they revered or feared. These symbols could be simple carvings, painted images, or objects like feathers or stones that had spiritual significance. They were a way for early humans to give form to their beliefs. Unlike rituals, which were dynamic and involved action, symbols were static representations of the intangible forces they believed in. They were reminders of the spiritual world that existed beyond the physical world. Why did early humans feel compelled to create symbols? It's likely that they did so as a way to make the spiritual world more concrete, something that could be seen, touched, and experienced. Symbols served as a bridge between the physical and the spiritual, allowing humans to connect with the unseen forces they believed in. As we look back at these rituals and symbols, it's easy to see them as primitive or even strange. But for our ancestors, they were powerful tools of survival. They helped early humans manage the unpredictability of their world, creating a sense of meaning and connection in a place where both were often in short supply. So, how do rituals and symbols function in our lives today? Do we still use them to navigate the uncertainties of life? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Remember, if you're finding this content insightful, give the video a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed. We're only just beginning to uncover the mysteries of our early ancestors' spiritual practices, and you won't want to miss what's next. In the distant past, when early humans first began to form their spiritual beliefs, the natural world was not just a backdrop to their lives. It was an integral part of their spiritual experience. The forces of nature were mysterious, unpredictable, and, in many ways, beyond human control. Yet it was these very forces that early humans came to revere, fear, and, most importantly, understand. One of the most significant influences on early spiritual rituals was the environment itself. Early humans lived in constant interaction with nature. Every day they encountered wild animals, changing weather patterns, and shifting landscapes. They had no knowledge of science or natural laws as we understand them today. Instead, they relied on their senses and experiences to interpret the world around them. This intimate relationship with nature led to the development of spiritual practices that centered around natural elements: earth, water, fire, and air. The sun, which provided life and light, was often viewed as a divine force or deity. The moon, with its rhythmic cycles, held symbolic significance as a marker of time and change. Thunderstorms and lightning, often destructive forces, were seen as signs of powerful gods, or spirits expressing their might. In this context, rituals were not merely human creations, but reflections of the natural forces that governed the world. Early humans did not see themselves as separate from nature. Rather, they saw themselves as part of a larger, interconnected system. Nature was alive with energy, and it was essential for survival to understand and honor the elements that shaped life. Whether it was the rain that nurtured their crops, or the wind that guided their journeys, every aspect of nature had spiritual significance. One fascinating example of this relationship can be seen in the way early humans might have worshipped the sky. The sky was both a source of sustenance and a mysterious force. When early humans looked up, they saw the movement of the stars, the patterns of the sun and moon, and the occasional flash of lightning. These were not just natural occurrences, they were spiritual events, signs from the gods or the universe itself. Fire, too, played a pivotal role in early rituals. Not only was it a practical tool for cooking and warmth, but it also symbolized transformation and purification. Fire could be both a destructive and a life-giving force. Early humans may have used fire in rituals to symbolize the power of transformation, the passage of time, or the connection between the physical and spiritual realms. Water, the source of all life, was another powerful element in early spiritual practices. It's likely that water was viewed as a purifier, both physically and spiritually. Rivers, lakes, and seas were not just bodies of water. They were sacred places where early humans may have gone to wash away sins or seek blessings from deities associated with water. As early humans continued to interact with these elements, their rituals became more sophisticated, reflecting a deeper understanding of the forces that shaped their world. These rituals were not only expressions of spirituality, they were also a means of survival. By aligning themselves with the natural world, they were able to create a sense of harmony and control over an otherwise unpredictable existence. Nature's influence on spirituality is something we still see today in many cultures around the world. But how did these early beliefs evolve over time, and how did they influence the religions that followed? I want to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below. If you're enjoying this deep dive into early spiritual practices, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. There's so much more to explore about how these ancient rituals shaped our understanding of the divine. One of the most profound aspects of early human spirituality was the way in which our ancestors grappled with death. Death, in its most basic sense, is the end of life. But for early humans, death was not simply an inevitable event. It was a mystery, a question that had no easy answers. And with this mystery came the need for explanations, rituals, and beliefs about what happened after death. As early humans became increasingly aware of mortality, they began to develop concepts of an afterlife, a place or state beyond the physical world. The loss of a loved one was not just a biological event, it was a spiritual one. To lose someone was to lose a connection to the unseen world, and it was something that demanded understanding, or at least a way to cope with the pain and uncertainty. In the absence of written records or organized religion, the beliefs surrounding death in early human societies were likely deeply personal and varied from group to group. However, it's believed that many early humans saw death as a transition rather than an end. The spirit or soul was thought to depart the physical body and travel to another realm, a place of rest, reward, or punishment. This belief in an afterlife provided comfort and meaning in the face of death's harsh reality. Grave rituals and burial practices provide the most direct evidence of early humans' beliefs about death and the afterlife. Archaeological findings of burial sites, some with elaborate tools, animal bones, and personal items, suggest that early humans believed in a continued existence beyond death. These items were likely meant to help the deceased in their journey to the afterlife, whether it was to ensure protection from spiritual forces or to provide for their needs in a world beyond. Some of the earliest burial practices involved the positioning of the body, the use of fire, and the inclusion of symbolic objects. These rituals were likely seen as necessary steps to ensure that the deceased person's soul would travel safely to the afterlife. For example, certain bones or objects may have been placed with the deceased to serve as a guide or protector, while others may have been used in ritualistic ceremonies to help the soul transition from the physical world to the spiritual. Beyond the grave, there were beliefs in spirits or ancestral beings. Early humans might have believed that the spirits of the dead could influence the living, either by offering protection or by causing harm. Ancestor worship may have been one of the first forms of religious practice, as it was an attempt to honor and communicate with the spirits of the deceased, ensuring their favor and protection. The afterlife, then, was not just an abstract concept for early humans, it was an integral part of their spiritual lives. The rituals surrounding death and the afterlife helped create a framework for understanding life's greatest mystery. They offered comfort to the living and a way to honor the dead, giving meaning to the inevitability of death. Think about it. Even in modern times, we still wrestle with the idea of what happens after we die. How does your belief system or understanding of death shape your life today? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear how you approach this profound question. If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to like the video and make sure you're subscribed to continue exploring the fascinating journey of human spirituality. In the early stages of human development, spirituality was not something that could easily be articulated through words. It was a mysterious force, often intangible, that influenced everything from daily survival to the way humans understood the world around them. To communicate this understanding and connect with the unseen, early humans needed a new kind of expression, something that could embody their spiritual beliefs and invoke the power they sought. This is where symbols and secret rituals came into play. Rituals, as we've seen, were more than just repetitive acts. They were powerful expressions of the spiritual world. But in addition to performing these acts, early humans began to create symbols. Symbols that represented what words could not. Symbols that were tangible representations of intangible beliefs. Early symbols were simple yet profound. They were often created using materials that were readily available in the natural world: stones, bones, wood, and animal skins. These objects were imbued with meaning far beyond their physical properties. A stone might represent strength, an animal bone could symbolize protection, and a carving or mark might represent the unseen forces that governed life. One of the most significant aspects of these early symbols was their role in spiritual communication. Just as modern humans use language to express thoughts and emotions, early humans used symbols to convey their spiritual beliefs. These symbols were not just artistic representations, they were believed to carry power. By carving a symbol or drawing a figure, early humans may have felt they were invoking the very forces they represented. This act of creation was an act of spiritual engagement. The power of symbols was deeply tied to their sacredness. In many cultures, the meaning of a symbol was not openly shared with outsiders. This sense of secrecy heightened the importance and mystery of the symbol, adding an extra layer of reverence. The more secretive the ritual or symbol, the more sacred it became. Some rituals may have even been exclusive to certain members of the group, passed down through generations in oral traditions. These secret rites and symbols were not just about spiritual expression. They were about maintaining a connection to the divine and ensuring that connection was protected from the eyes of outsiders. In the earliest human societies, where survival was often a daily struggle, symbols also served a practical purpose. They were used in hunting rituals, for protection against predators, or as tools to influence nature. For instance, an animal's image might have been used as a symbol to ensure a successful hunt, or as a protective charm to ward off danger. The spiritual and the practical were often intertwined, as symbols took on roles that were both sacred and functional. As human societies grew and evolved, these symbols became more sophisticated and widespread, eventually forming the foundations of written languages and religious iconography. But in those early days, the power of symbols was profound. They were the first attempt to give form to the spiritual, to make the invisible visible, and to create a connection with the divine that transcended the limitations of language. The creation of symbols was an essential step in the development of human spirituality. It allowed early humans to express their beliefs and fears in ways that words alone could not. These symbols gave shape to their hopes, fears, and desires, forming the basis of all future religious practices. Have you ever thought about the power of symbols in your own life? How do you use symbols to express your beliefs or emotions? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're finding this journey into early spirituality fascinating, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more insights into our ancient past. In the modern world, we often think of rituals and spirituality as personal, private practices that are tied to religious observance. But for early humans, rituals were far more than spiritual expressions. They were crucial to survival. In a world filled with threats from nature, wild animals, and even other human groups, the need for spiritual rituals became deeply intertwined with the need for safety and well-being. The first rituals were not born from the desire for meaning alone. They were born out of necessity. The harshness of prehistoric life demanded that early humans find ways to cope with constant fear, uncertainty, and danger. At the heart of these rituals was a desire for control, a way to influence the forces around them, whether it was the weather, the animals they hunted, or the spiritual forces they believed in. One of the primary functions of early rituals was to protect individuals and groups from external threats. Imagine living in a world where danger could be found at every turn, predators lurking in the shadows, natural disasters that could wipe out entire communities, and the ever-present threat of illness. In this context, rituals served as protective measures, invoking spiritual forces to keep the group safe. By performing rituals, early humans sought to create a shield, both physical and spiritual, that would ward off these dangers. Take, for example, the act of hunting. Hunting was a vital part of early human life, and the success of a hunt could mean the difference between survival and death. Rituals performed before or during a hunt likely had a dual purpose. They were both spiritual acts and practical tools. On one level, they were an appeal to the spirits of the animals, asking for a successful hunt and showing respect for the creatures that provided food. On another level, they may have served to mentally prepare the hunters, helping them focus and bond as a group. In this way, rituals became a tool for both spiritual and practical survival. Rituals also helped early humans build a sense of community. In a world where survival depended on cooperation, rituals played a key role in strengthening social bonds. Shared experiences, such as group rituals and ceremonies, created unity among individuals, reinforcing the idea that survival was a collective effort. This sense of unity was crucial in facing the many challenges that early humans encountered. It helped them to work together, to share resources, and to support one another in times of crisis. Moreover, rituals helped to reduce anxiety and fear. The unknown is often one of the greatest sources of stress, and in a world where death, illness, and danger were constant, rituals provided a way to make the world feel more predictable and manageable. By performing rituals, early humans could temporarily control the forces that threatened them, bringing a sense of order to an otherwise chaotic existence. In this sense, spirituality and ritual were not separate. From survival, they were a fundamental part of it. The psychological benefits of these rituals, such as reduced stress, increased sense of control, and strengthened community ties, were essential for early humans to navigate the challenges of their environment. Rituals allowed them to cope with the overwhelming uncertainty of life, while also giving them a sense of purpose and connection to something greater than themselves. How do you think rituals impact our survival today? Do they still serve a practical function in modern life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you're enjoying the deep dive into early human spirituality, make sure to give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. There's so much more to explore in the world of ancient rituals and their profound impact on humanity. As early humans began to form spiritual beliefs, the idea of a higher power or a supernatural force soon took shape. The sun, the stars, and the animals were not just physical entities, they were divine forces with whom humans sought connection. This longing for a deeper understanding of the universe led to one of the most profound aspects of early spirituality, the attempt to communicate with gods or supernatural beings. But how did early humans conceive of these divine entities? And how did they attempt to communicate with beings that were beyond their reach? The answer lies in their rituals, symbols, and the deep desire to connect with forces that could not be seen or touched, but were believed to govern the world. In the absence of written language or complex theological frameworks, early humans used ritual and symbolic acts as a form of communication with the gods. These rituals were not simply acts of worship. They were attempts to invoke the divine, to ask for blessings, protection, or even understanding. Early humans believed that by performing certain acts, whether it was a dance, a chant, or a symbolic offering, they could attract the attention of these supernatural beings and gain favor from them. One of the key ways early humans may have communicated with the gods was through the use of animal sacrifices. These sacrifices were not only offerings of food, but also symbolic gestures of respect and submission to the divine forces that governed their lives. By sacrificing an animal, early humans may have believed they were appeasing the gods, ensuring protection for their tribe, or securing a successful hunt. These rituals were a way of acknowledging the power of the gods and seeking their favor. In addition to animal sacrifices, early humans also created sacred spaces, caves, mountains, or specific areas in nature that were considered holy and where communication with the divine could take place. These spaces were often chosen for their natural power, perhaps the sound of running water, the stillness of a cave, or the height of a mountain, that seemed to bring humans closer to the divine. These sacred sites became places for offerings, prayers, and ritualistic acts, where early humans believed they could reach out to the gods and spirits that watched over them. Shamans or spiritual leaders also played an essential role in these early spiritual practices. These individuals were believed to have a unique connection to the supernatural world. They acted as intermediaries between the gods and the people, conducting rituals, interpreting visions, and offering guidance based on their spiritual insights. Through them, early humans could seek answers to their most pressing questions, whether it was about life, death, or the unknown forces that shaped their world. In some cultures, the gods were believed to be present in natural phenomena, thunder, lightning, or the wind. These natural occurrences were not simply seen as random events, but as messages from the gods. The sound of thunder, for instance, might have been interpreted as the voice of a god speaking to the people. In this way, early humans sought to understand and interpret the world through a spiritual lens, always searching for signs that the gods were present, active, and involved in their lives. The need to communicate with the divine was driven by a desire for understanding, protection, and guidance. For early humans, the spiritual world was not distant or abstract. It was a present, active force that could influence their fate. And through rituals and symbols, they sought to bridge the gap between the human and the divine, attempting to make sense of a world that was often unpredictable and dangerous. How do you view the relationship between humans and the divine today? Do you feel there is still a need to communicate with a higher power in your life? Share your thoughts and reflections in the comments below. If you're finding this journey through early spirituality intriguing, be sure to like the video and subscribe so you won't miss what's coming next. In the early stages of human history, survival was not only about hunting, gathering, or defending against threats. It was also about building community. Communities were essential for survival. Early humans depended on each other for food, protection, and emotional support. But what really tied these groups together? How did they create a sense of unity, shared identity, and purpose? The answer lies in the rituals they practiced. Rituals were more than just spiritual acts. They were the glue that held early human societies together. Through these communal practices, early humans were able to forge connections, communicate shared values, and reinforce their bonds. In essence, rituals helped to create a collective identity, one that united people beyond the individual and into a larger, cohesive group. One of the key functions of early rituals was to promote cooperation. Rituals, whether they were performed before a hunt, during seasonal transitions, or in times of crisis, created a sense of shared responsibility and collective effort. Through these practices, members of early societies came together, reaffirming their roles within the group and their commitment to one another. This sense of unity was essential for survival. as it ensured that individuals would support each other and work together for the common good. Rituals also served to reinforce social hierarchies and leadership structures within early communities. Shamans, spiritual leaders, or those who performed rituals were often seen as figures of authority. Their role in the spiritual life of the group gave them influence, and through their guidance, communities were able to navigate both the physical and spiritual challenges they faced. The leaders of these rituals were not only spiritual guides but also key figures in maintaining order and stability within the community. In addition to promoting cooperation and leadership, rituals helped early humans to make sense of their environment. As we've discussed, the forces of nature were often perceived as mysterious and uncontrollable. Through rituals, early humans could attempt to gain control over these forces, seeking favor or protection from the natural world. But rituals also served another purpose. They allowed people to express their collective identity in a way that went beyond survival. They created a sense of meaning, purpose, and connection to something greater than themselves. Whether it was the bond formed through a shared hunting ritual or the solidarity created by seasonal festivals, these spiritual practices were integral to the development of early human societies. As rituals continued to evolve, they also became a means of passing down traditions, stories, and knowledge from one generation to the next. These rituals were more than just practices. They were ways of preserving the culture, values, and beliefs of a community. They served as a link between the past and the future, ensuring that the knowledge and wisdom of the ancestors were preserved and respected. Over time, as human societies grew more complex, rituals became more elaborate and integrated into the fabric of social life. They were no longer just acts of survival or spiritual expression. They became the foundation of culture, politics, and identity. The influence of these early rituals can still be seen in modern societies, where rituals continue to play a role in community building, cultural identity, and social cohesion. Reflecting on this, how do you think rituals continue to shape human societies today? In what ways do rituals influence your community or your personal life? I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If you're enjoying the exploration of early human rituals, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more deep dives into the origins of spirituality and community. As we look back at the rituals and spiritual practices of early humans, it becomes clear that these first expressions of spirituality laid the foundation for the complex religions that would later emerge across the world. The rituals of our ancestors weren't just primitive actions. They were the seeds of something much larger, something that would grow and evolve into the religious traditions we know today. The legacy of early spiritual practices is all around us. In every culture, we see echoes of these ancient rituals, whether it's the sacred ceremonies of modern religions, the use of symbols to represent the divine, or the communal nature of religious worship. While the specific practices have changed over time, the core human need for connection with something greater than ourselves has remained constant. These early rituals also taught us something important about the human experience, that spirituality is not just about individual belief, but about community. The first rituals were about coming together as a group, sharing in the experience, and creating bonds that would support survival. Today, religion continues to play a similar role, providing a sense of belonging and identity, as well as a way to make sense of the world. One of the most profound lessons from early spiritual practices is the power of symbolism. The symbols created by our ancestors weren't just decorative. They were charged with meaning, representing the unseen forces that shaped their world. These symbols became the building blocks for the sacred imagery of modern religions, reminding us that spirituality is not just about belief, but about connection to something beyond the physical world. As we move through life today, we still grapple with the same fundamental questions that early humans faced. Why are we here? What happens after we die? What forces govern the world around us? While the answers may differ, the quest for understanding remains universal. And just like our ancestors, we continue to use rituals, symbols, and spiritual practices to seek answers to these profound questions. If you've made it this far, I want to hear from you. What part of this journey into early spirituality resonated most with you? Do you see connections between these ancient practices and your own beliefs? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this exploration of the origins of human spirituality, I'd love for you to subscribe, like the video, and check out the next video on the channel. It might just answer more questions you didn't even know you had. Thank you for joining me on this journey through time. Let's keep exploring the fascinating story of human spirituality together.